This is the Clear Money Talk podcast, offering up creative solutions for your retirement future through education, choice, transparency, and empathy. Now, your host, CEO and founder of Clear Financial Partners, Tim Claremont.
Hello, and welcome again to a podcast, an episode of Clear Money Talk. I am your host, Tim Claremont, CEO and founder of Clear Financial Partners, and I'm here with
Tyler Andrews. I did my own introduction right there. Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. We're in the podcast studio. Tim and I are geeking out, nerding out on money-related topics that we hope you guys find interesting.
That's right. And again, Tyler looks better than me. He's dressed up better than I am.
That's all right, Tim.
Recording this.
There's always next week. You can,
it's fine. You keep dropping. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm giving up. I'm not going to try to compete with Tyler anymore. He's just a better-looking guy, and it's the way it is. So I'm moving on. We're actually doing another makeup podcast for those that listen to the other podcasts that we had. This is one that we had a mistake. We lost the version of it, so we're going to hit it a second time for you because we felt like it was an important topic. We wanted to cover it.
It is,
I'm excited to share today. Here we go. Let's see.
Here we go. Round two.
Money-related question that we're answering today.
All right. Topic of the day for our podcast is how can individuals optimize wealth transfer while minimizing taxes and probate?
Okay.
So this is a big one. It's a loaded one. I think we should first start off with our disclosure. We're not legal professionals. We cannot give legal advice. We're not tax professionals. We cannot give tax advice. However, we can give you some generalities regarding all this stuff.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like that. That's
pretty tight, right?
That's good. That's great. So we're not attorneys, not accountants. We are financial advisors, and we are happy to give you investment advice, and we'll give you some guidance as best we can based on the experience that we have doing this. So let's ask that question again exactly the way it's phrased, because there's a lot of rabbit holes we could dive down on.
There sure is, yeah. How can individuals optimize wealth transfer while minimizing taxes and probate?
Got it. How can individuals optimize wealth transfer while minimizing taxes and probate? So taxes and probate are two different issues. If we could think of it this way, think of it like you have one really happy goal, which is wealth transfer, and you have two obstacles, two big hairy gorillas that are running at you. And one of them is taxes and one of them is probate. And we're going to talk about each one of those gorillas separately so you can kind of get past them into the goal. So
that is frightening, man.
It is frightening. I mean, taxes and probate are pretty scary.
But the hairy gorillas?
Yeah, hairy gorillas. There you go. Okay, so let's go with probate first, and recognize again that we're not attorneys, so we can't give you that legal advice. When it comes to probate actually means, it's Latin for the word to prove. And it's about proving the validity, the validness of a will. And that's the whole point of probate. So when somebody passes away, there's a process of saying, hey, was there a will? And if there was a will, was it valid? And is it the most recent will? Was it legit? Were they of right mind when they signed it? And because you need to have a process to be able to determine whether or not that's actually accurate, whether this is the right will, this was the last testament to the person who passed away, that process is a public hearing. It's a hearing in the court system, and that process is called probate. So when you have somebody pass away and they have a bunch of money and stuff like that, and people come up and say, no, that person wanted it to go to me, and another person says, no, they wanted it to go to me, and there's a fight about that, then that has to go to a judge, and then the judge decides who's supposed to get the money. And based on that, the decision, the rules for that decision come down to the validity of the will. And that whole process can be very expensive and can be very time consuming. And for many people, the significance of publicity associated with that is also a huge deterrent. The results of the judge decision are part of public record. So a lot of people say, I don't want my stuff to go through that process. That costs a lot of money, costs a lot of time. I don't want my heirs fighting. I want to know that the money goes exactly where I want it to go when I pass away. And so they try to avoid that gorilla, that probate gorilla. And avoiding the probate gorilla, the most common way we see clients do that is by having what's called a declared beneficiary on a certain account, and it'll result in something that's passed via contract of law. So passing an asset from one party to another upon death via contract of law, from our understanding, again, I'm not an attorney, can't give you legal advice, is one of the ways to avoid probate. And that can be done through titling or through declared beneficiaries. So if you have joint ownership, for example, on an account, maybe joint with rights of survivorship, for example, when one person passes away, typically the other person becomes an automatic owner, and that can avoid probate because it's built into the titling of the contract. Therefore, it passes via contract of law. In the event that you have a declared beneficiary, where you say, hey, I have a primary beneficiary, I want this to go to these, my spouse as my primary beneficiary. You pass away, goes directly to your spouse, doesn't have to go through probate because you have a declared beneficiary. That works on certain types of accounts. Other types of accounts, it's hard to do that. How do you declare a beneficiary on your house? How do you declare a beneficiary on your car? You can't necessarily do that as cleanly, so that's where things will come into play like revocable living trusts. And when you pay an attorney to create a revocable living trust, you can actually kind of declare a beneficiary that'll pass via contract of law on something like a house or a car or some collectibles or whatever else you have. So a lot of people you'll hear will create a living trust to try to avoid probate, and that costs some money, and you got to hire an attorney to do that. All of that is about avoiding that probate gorilla. Has nothing to do with taxes. Has to do with probate gorilla. So we're avoiding the probate gorilla, try to get into the end zone and minimizing that expense, the time, and the publicity associated with the process of probate. But probate's not necessarily a bad thing. It's possible that you might need the courts to figure some stuff out. And frankly, if you don't have a will, guess what? The state you die in the United States has a will for you.
They sure do.
That's what it means when you die intestate. So if you ever hear the term intestate, that means that somebody died, they didn't have a will, and you're going to look at the state that they died in to say, well, what's the will say there? And every state's will, as a backup for you, is a little different. So imagine that if you died in one state versus another state, the money, and you didn't have a will, your money might go straight to your spouse and then maybe to your kids, and then maybe it goes to your siblings versus straight to your spouse and then to your kids and then maybe to your parents or something like that. I mean, all of those little differences depends on which state you're in and what those states' rules are, and that's all a little different. So if you don't want to use their default will, you want to make sure that you have your own will in place, and then if you don't want to have the process of probate, a will still go through probate. If you don't want to have a will go through probate, you can consider something like a revocable living trust. The word revocable, by the way, just means you can change your mind. So you can always put stuff in the trust, take it out. You don't have to keep it there forever. If you make it irrevocable, you cannot change your mind. So understand the difference between irrevocable and revocable is a very big deal when it comes to trusts. Pay attention to both. They have pros and cons on both sides. But I'd say that's majority of the probate gorilla stuff that I'm aware of. Again, not as an attorney, can't give you legal advice. We definitely recommend working with attorneys, and we certainly have great attorneys we can connect our clients with if they need attorneys. Yeah. But generally speaking, avoiding probate is just trying to say, hey, I want my money to pass to who I want it to, efficiently and preferably privately upon my passing. And that's what avoiding probate's about. So we'll move to the tax gorilla next, but anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you hit on all the main topics of why most people want to try to avoid probate. It's kind of a common theme that most people want to do what they can to avoid probate. If you've ever had to deal with probate, you're probably on the end of the spectrum where you're like, I want to try to avoid that, when I eventually pass away. So that's great. You hit on all those topics. A nice segue maybe into the taxes is, what if someone listened to our podcast right now, Tim? They're like, okay, Tim said revocable living trust, a way to, maybe have my house pass directly to somebody when I pass away instead of going through probate. What if I don't want to pay an attorney to set up a revocable living trust? What if I just gift my house to my kid right now before I pass away? Why don't I just do that?
Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, gifting assets away before you die is another way of avoiding probate, right? If you gift them away while you're alive, you can do that. So I'm glad you brought that up because we kind of missed that. But it does have significant implications tax-wise.
Yes.
So gifting assets away during your lifetime or upon death will drastically affect the tax consequences. And when it comes to taxes, I'm visualizing literally, you're running down the field, you got the ball, you're going to go score that touchdown, and there's that giant probate gorilla, and you just watched out and you dodged and you juked and you got around him and boom, and then he's on his face and you're past him, and then the tax gorilla comes up and just freaking nails you. And that's exactly what happens if you don't watch out for both gorillas, because the tax gorilla is going to come in. And the tax gorilla is even bigger than the probate gorilla because this guy's got 3 arms. He's not like a 2-armed gorilla. He's like a 3-armed gorilla. He's got the income tax arm. Boom. He's got the capital gains tax arm. Boom. And he's got the estate tax arm. Boom. Like this third magic arm that comes out from his back and just hits you from above his head. You didn't even see it coming. And that's the way taxes work. It's this giant 3-armed gorilla that's going to beat you upside the head if you don't dodge him right. And the fact is, you've got income taxes that are going to hit you on any kind of qualified retirement plan money that you leave behind that's pre-tax money. So think about like IRAs, 401ks, that giant bag of pre-tax money that you have that you're drawing from in retirement. All that leftover money goes to your family. They got to pay income taxes on that when it comes out in whatever their income tax bracket is, and they're going to have to do it within 10 years of death, according to current tax laws. So they got to distribute all that money out and pay income taxes in their bracket if you don't pay the taxes before you die. Then you also have potential capital gains tax consequences. What if you bought that house? Maybe you have a farm. You have a family farm. Maybe it's worth $3 million. Maybe you inherited it, 100 years ago from your grandfather who passed it down to you. And, when you inherited it was worth like $5,000 and it's worth $3 million today. You have literally almost $3 million of capital gains you've never paid any taxes on. And you might feel like that's your family farm, man. Nobody owes any taxes on that. That's not fair. But that's not the way the government looks at it. You're here in the United States, so they want a piece when you're going to transfer the money from one person to the next. So when you transfer that $3 million to your family, to the next generation, all of a sudden it's like, boom, you're going to get hit with capital gains taxes when you sell that farm. If you sell it before you die, then they want to hit you with capital gains taxes, which is 15 to 20% federally. Plus, if you're in the state of Oregon, another 9% income taxes on that. So 24 to 29% is what you're looking at dealing with on that farm. Well,
and they're talking about changing those rates too.
Yeah,
now.
That's right. Those rates are expected to change as soon as 2026. So right now, you're going to lose a quarter to a third of that. That's $1 million. Yeah. How are you going to even come up with that? You sell the farm for $3 million. You got to give $1 million to the government. You get $2 million. You walk away with that. You got no farm. I mean, that's one choice. Well, what happens if you give that farm to your kid before you die? Okay, you give it to your kid before they die. They have your same cost basis, that same $5,000 basis. When your kid sells the farm, they're going to have to pay the taxes on that. Now, you can give it to them without having to pay taxes. That's good as far as the capital gains taxes. But there's something called gift and estate taxes. That's that giant arm that was on the top of the gorilla's head. And that's going to come in and it unifies together the maximum amount of money you can gift during your lifetime without paying a totally separate tax, gift and estate taxes. Now, fortunately, you can give away $3 million without having to pay the gift and estate tax. So that's actually pretty cool in our example. But once you go over right now, like $12, $13 million, you give away like a $50 million farm, government's going to come in and take a chunk of that right now if you give that away. So that room to give away a significant amount of money is pretty large right now. It's the largest it's ever been in history, but that room is also one of the things that's going to change based on the current tax law at the end of 2025. So we have 2 years left, 2024 and 2025, to give away significant amounts of money without having that same gift tax implication. And there's massive expectations that you're going to see the sunsetting of some of the tax reform occur at the end of 2025, and that's going to change those gift tax laws significantly. For those of you that are thinking, I got less than $10 million, that's probably not going to affect me that much. I get that for gifting, but you got estate taxes. And estate taxes is the other part of that arm that's on top of that gorilla's head. The estate taxes are going to come in and say, look, if you're in Oregon, particularly for clients that are here in Oregon, though this affects clients in all states. If you're in Oregon, everything over $1 million gets hit with estate taxes upon death. So even if you had that farm that was worth $3 million and you held it till you died, and now there's a cost basis step up to $3 million, so you don't pay capital gains taxes on it, and your heirs inherit the $3 million farm, and now they could theoretically sell that farm for $3 million and not pay capital gains taxes. You've avoided that $1 million rough capital gains tax estimate. You still have to deal with estate taxes in the state of Oregon. If you give away over $1 million to the next generation, they're going to come in and hit you for 10 to 15% of everything over that $1 million. So if you give away $3 million to your kids, $1 million, $2 million is over the $1 million threshold. You're looking at somewhere around $200,000 to $300,000 of potentially estate taxes. Now, in that example that I just gave you, is a real world example.
It is. If
you gave that farm away to your kid before you died, your kid gets it, they sell it, they got to pay capital gains taxes on almost the entire $3 million. They lose almost $1 million in taxes to the federal government in the state of Oregon. If you'd held it till you died, they inherit the $3 million. Then they can sell it for $3 million, no capital gains taxes, but you got to hit the estate taxes in Oregon, which might be $200,000 to $300,000. Either way, there were some taxes that came and hit you from that frickin' gorilla when you were running to the end zone. Now, there are other ways to strategize this to try to minimize that tax burden. At the end of the day, you might have to throw that gorilla a banana just to keep him happy. You might not be able to avoid him completely, but you want to make sure that the cost of the banana is as low as possible so that you can get into the end zone carrying as much of the ball as you can. Otherwise, you're going to end up with, a lot less estate that you're going to pass on to the next generation. So estate taxes, income taxes, capital gains taxes, they all work together. And frankly, that gorilla is one of my favorite monstrosities to tackle because I just love fighting him. That's what I've been doing for 27 years. It's so much fun.
I'm just imagining like Donkey Kong throwing the barrels.
That's exactly what I'm picturing.
I don't know where Tim comes up with these analogies and this imagery, but I've never heard this one. I've heard all of them. So he literally just came up with off the top of his head.
Yeah.
And it's really good.
I just come up with this stuff all the time. That's the way it works.
Impressive.
Like, I just think of it. I'm like, that's how I picture it. It's all just freaking a video game for a lot of us that we're having to deal with, but it's got real life consequences. So
yeah, it does.
I mean, probate and the tax gorilla, those suckers right there, we want to dodge those guys. And we've got some of the best strategies for dealing with it. Though we are not accountants. We're not tax professionals. We're not going to give you tax advice. We're not attorneys. We're not going to give you legal advice. We are financial advisors who will work together with your accountant, with your attorney. If you don't have them, we will work together. We'll find some for you. And we'll make sure together the three of us will strategize the best way to get past those gorillas and optimize your overall circumstances. It only takes a little bit of that, it only takes a little bit of the consequences from those gorillas to take away from you to offset the time and energy that you put into trying to avoid them. Yeah. And it's so sad. Just Google, if you get on the internet and check out some of the estates where people passed away unprepared. They had no strategy for dealing with the gorillas. And some of the most famous people out there, look at like Marilyn Monroe's estate or Elvis's estate. Google that stuff. When these people passed away, they lost 70 to 90% of their assets to the costs of probate and to the taxes that came into play. Imagine you work your whole life to build the wealth that you build, however much that might be, whether it's $300,000, $3 million, or $300 million. It's your life's work to build what you built. And to have the gorillas just take away a huge chunk of that rather than having that go to the family members or the charities that you want that money to go to, that's what's so not fair in my mind. I'm like, it's fine if you want it to go there. It's your money. You earn the right to vote it however you want during your lifetime. But when you die, if you didn't tell people how you wanted to vote your money, everybody's got a plan for it. And they're going to divide it up and they're going to do whatever they want. Maybe you don't care. That's okay. Some clients don't. They're like, whatever, I'll have it while I'm having it. That's okay. But if you care about who gets your money, make sure you have a plan. Because the gorillas are going to get a lot more of that money than what you were hoping.
Yeah, well said. What if that third arm gorilla got even scarier, had a fourth arm, and that fourth arm was called the generation skip and transfer tax?
Oh, that's like horrible. That's like a little arm on top of the estate tax one. It's like the arm with
and
the
it
arm.
just like baps you on the top of the head. That's a real thing, though. That GSTT is a real
you're
thing.
Right.
It's not as common, but it also comes up occasionally.
It's really more like an octopus. There's just so many underlying arms behind the gorilla.
I'm gonna have nightmares tonight.
It's a beast, isn't it?
It's
a beast. The three big arms and then the little arm generation skipping. No, you're right. You got to be careful. The tax gorilla is a beast. So got to watch out for both of them. Yeah. Well, let's go for just the answer.
Let's do it.
See what we can do. So
okay, topic again. How can individuals optimize wealth transfer while minimizing taxes and probate? Let's talk about probate. Why does somebody want to avoid probate? And maybe what are some common strategies to avoid probate?
Got it. So optimizing wealth transfer is all about minimizing the cost of probate and the time of probate. Probate is the process of proving the validity of your will. And if you die without a will, the state has one for you. That's dying intestate. If you have a will, it's got to get validated. That goes through the process of probate, which is public and done with the courts. Avoiding probate can be done through, again, we're not attorneys, can't give you legal advice, but you should check with titling ownership of your accounts, as well as declared beneficiaries, as well as considering something like a revocable living trust that might make sense for those kinds of assets where you can't declare a beneficiary. And that can help you avoid the probate cost and publicity of the probate. As far as the tax gorilla that we articulated previously in our analogy earlier, which is worth listening to the long show just so you can hear about the gorillas because they're pretty fun.
Absolutely.
But the tax gorilla is about avoiding long-term capital gains taxes, as well as short-term capital gains taxes, income taxes, and estate taxes, which also ties in with gift taxes and generation skipping taxes. All of these different kinds of taxes come into play depending on how you give the money away, whether you give it away during your lifetime, give it away upon your death, and which state you die in, and the estate tax consequences associated with that. So making sure that the gorilla that we were articulating earlier, the tax gorilla, gets the minimum number of bananas that you got to feed him in order to get by and around him, is all about keeping that wealth transfer maximized. There are lots of cool strategies. We didn't go into a lot of the strategies today, but other things like gifting appropriately, things like creating irrevocable trusts, things like considering life insurance to use to pay for that banana, so that the gorilla can take the banana and then you can walk right around him with all the other stuff that you had. It's genuinely a function of looking at your individual circumstances to optimize your play to ultimately minimize those taxes, avoid probate if that's something that you want to do, and make sure that the people you want to have get your money. It's
perfect. Well said.
Oh, thank you, man. I'll take it.
I love the gorilla analogy.
I know. I like that
I'm
one
going
too.
to be using that now. That's
I
great.
am. Every analogy is like sometimes it works and sticks, and sometimes it doesn't. I like the gorilla analogy.
And the
I can see that.
bananas,
Yeah.
it's just Donkey Kong, man.
It works, man. Yeah, it is Donkey Kong. So it's good.
It is.
All those songs going in my head. All right.
Yeah, trivia.
Let's
do some
What you
trivia.
got?
I got a fun one. I really like this one. Okay. Which Star Wars characters appear in the movie Indiana Jones?
Which Star Wars?
I'm going to give you some options because this one's tough.
Okay, but
I had to
before you give me
Google
the
it.
options, let me think about it.
Sure.
The movie Indiana Jones. There's like the Raiders of the Lost Ark is the first one, but like you're talking the whole series of Indiana Jones, or just the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first one. Then you got Temple
Indiana
of Doom.
Jones,
You got
yeah.
Last Crusade. There's so many Indiana Jones movies, and then all the other ones since then. Kingdom, the Crystal Skull and all that stuff. Obviously, I'm a movie buff. Love the Indiana Jones stuff. Star Wars. Let's see. Characters.
Which ones appear in the movie Indiana Jones?
Star Wars characters that appear in the movie Indiana Jones. Gosh, man, I am really struggling. All right, I'm going to need the multiple choice.
It's tough. Okay.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Got 4 choices here for you.
hit me with it.
R2-D2 and C-3PO, Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, obviously the same actor plays in Indiana Jones as is in Star Wars. We got Harrison Ford.
That's right.
Plays Han Solo.
Yep.
But you're not saying the same actor. You're saying the actual character. So we're seeing Han Solo and Chewbacca, or I could just see some kind of a moment where the floating Yoda, Luke Skywalker, or something like that. Good theory. This feels more Star Wars than Indiana Jones. Oh man, R2-D2 and C-3PO. Are they in some background picture where there's like a little tiny? Yeah, let's go with R2-D2 and C-3PO. Total guess.
Excellent work, Tim. Tim is 2 for 2 today with the trivia. That is correct.
What are the?
I
is there
had
like
to-
some
I had to
little tiny
research it, too.
picture, like of the what's going on?
Pretty much. Okay, so in Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is the first
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, he's in the Temple of Doom, and he's trying to get the medallion skull, and he has to replace it with the weights in the bag.
Uh-huh.
Well, in a brief 2-second clip, in the hieroglyphics of the wall of the tomb he's in, is a picture of C-3PO and R2-D2.
Oh, you're kidding.
And it's only on screen for like maybe 3 seconds,
Oh
and
my
it's so
goodness.
far in the background that you have to like zoom in to see it. But
Wow.
it's a little Easter egg that Steven
so
Spielberg and George Lucas put in there. So,
That's really cool. Well,
Pretty
I
cool.
Did not know that. I'm glad I got lucky and guessed it correctly. I think if it was one of the other people, I probably would have remembered it more clearly. So,
yeah, it's
wow.
That's
you learned something.
process
new
of
that
elimination.
You will
That was
never
good.
forget now. So yeah,
right.
thank you so much for joining us on Clear Money Talk. As you can tell, Tyler and I have a good time doing this.
We sure do.
We love our lives. We love our time together, and we love sharing.
If you
with
guys want to hang out with us or meet with us and see if we can help you in your
Yeah.
personal financial
What we do.
situation, give us a call. Our number is 503-579-1000. I feel like we don't plug ourselves enough. Like,
I know.
we-
The reality is, you may not realize this, but I'm just going to just be
Go.
clear with you right now.
Yeah.
We don't take on a ton of clients. Like Tyler and I work personally with the people who reach out to us. We hit capacity. So, we'll probably take on maybe 10 to 12 clients a year. So the people that call us and fit with us, it's a good fit right now. Those are the ones that are fortunate enough that we have that kind of a relationship with, and we serve them personally in that capacity. At some point we're going to hit capacity. We're not going to be able to do that anymore. But for now, that's what it is. So If you feel like you like us and you aren't working with a financial advisor that you like, or you don't have one at all, and you want to be considered as one of our 10 to 12 new clients that we'll serve, definitely reach out. We work with anybody in the United States and in pretty much every state. So 503-579-1000 is our number. And we'd be happy to have a 15-minute chat with you with no obligation, no cost, no expectations, just to see if we're a good fit. And if we're not, we'll still have a fun time chatting with you, and we'll wish you well in whatever capacity you're working with in your life.
Absolutely. So, or if you have an advisor and you just hate them, it's worth giving us a call too.
If you do, that's a bummer.
That's not a cool situation.
Probably
but don't
not
feel
the best
stuck
decision.
with them. If you hate them, maybe give us a call too.
Yeah, well, there is that. Man, we have encountered that a few times. I am sorry if that's the case.
Yes,
but,
me too.
If you have somebody you love, wonderful. We love them too. I'm glad you have a good relationship. Just please keep learning this stuff. Share it with them. They might have some comments about what we're sharing as well. We care about everybody in our industry. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for sharing time with us today on Clear Money Talk.
It's been fun. Till next time. Investment
advisory services are offered through Clear FP Advisors, LLC, or Registered Investment Advisor. Securities are offered through Clear FP Securities, LLC, member of FINRA IPC. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or a recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments may fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Timothy Claremont is licensed in your state, please contact his office. Clear FP Advisors, Clear FP Securities, and Clear FP Life LLC are not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide tax and/or legal advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Clear FP, LLC NPN number 1942837 and/or Clear FP Securities NPN number 197499604. Any discussion of general investing strategies or specific securities are for conversational purposes only and should not be taken as a guaranteed endorsement or recommendation.